Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis Gianoutsos. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Hey there, listeners. Well, welcome to 2025. I want to say thank you for tuning in to the Leadership is Changing podcast. But as we step into a brand new year, I want to take a moment to reflect on the incredible journey we've had in 2024. Over the past year, I've been privileged to feature some amazing guests on this podcast, leaders, change makers, and innovators who shared their wisdom, experiences, and insights. And together we've explored what it means to lead in today's ever-changing world. Over the next month, we're going to bring you some of these highlights. And in the Highlights 2024 episodes, we're bringing you some of the most impactful moments and key takeaways from 2024. Now, these highlights capture the essence of what this podcast is all about, helping leaders like you thrive in times of change and complexity. Now, whether it's tips on being courageous, thinking outside the box, adapting, or navigating transitions to higher levels of leadership, these snippets are sure to inspire and energize you for the year ahead. And of course, these highlights are just the tip of the iceberg. If something resonates with you, I encourage you to go and check out the full interviews from 2024 to dive deeper into the incredible conversations we've had. So let's get into it. Here are the highlights from 2024 on the Leadership is Changing podcast. Nelson, a massive welcome to you.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Denis.
Awesome. Great. Now, whereabouts in the world are you today?
I'm in New York City.
In New York City. Listeners, you can't see this, but Nelson's going to put on a beautiful Greek t-shirt for me, and it says Kala Christina, which means Merry Christmas. Okay, he's either a few months late or a few months early. It doesn't matter. It's great to see that t-shirt on you. And Nelson, are you originally from New York City? Tell us more about your background.
Originally from Guyana, South America. It was like a British Guyana before.
Yep, cool. And so tell us more about your background. What have you done? Where you been? What do you do today? Because I know you're the founder and the CEO of an organization called Kid Moto Technology. Tell us more.
So I'm just a lifelong entrepreneur, Denis. And in 2016-17, I founded Kid Moto Technologies. We are a mobile app that connects parents seeking child car seats to drivers that provide child car seats for airport transportation. And since 2017, I've grown this organization into 52 cities across America. And now we are branching off to start a few other companies for historically underserved segments of the population under a new company called Moto Nation.
Awesome. So in other words, the problem that parents had was when they landed in an airport or somewhere and they wanted to take transportation, there were no car seats for kids. Is that what it is?
100% correct. The car services and taxis do not provide child car seats, pre-installed child car seats. And me being a former yellow cab driver, best job ever, and Uber driver, I saw that need and things didn't work out in my direction on a different enterprise. And I said, let me start Kid Moto. Forget about it.
Yeah, very cool. And I see that, you've maybe the figures maybe a little bit out of date, but completed over 40,000 rides. You got a seven-figure revenue for 2023 and a valuation of $25 million.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. And then what a great idea, right? Nelson, what you saw was a gap in the market. And I think for a lot of leaders, sometimes their eyes are shut or they're just really stuck in their in their own business and not looking around. I think the important thing is for people to look around and actually understand what's out there, what gaps are out there. What are your thoughts on that? What made you look around and think about and find that gap in the market?
Well, I was a former yellow cab driver and Uber driver, and I noticed that gap in the market. I saw it, I lived it, right? I personally was not picking up parents of small children because I didn't know anything about child car seats, right? I was scared, right? And as a yellow cab driver and as an Uber driver side, parents would have a car seat. They would ask me to install it. Forget about it. I don't know how to install a car seat, right?
Yes.
It's like rocket science to me, rocket science. So I saw it and I didn't really think much of it until I was in procurement and government procurement. And I lost a couple of contracts. And I said, well, you know what? Let me start this mobile app and provide to this segment of the population to see where it goes. It was a weird, crazy idea.
Yeah, it sounds like it went very well. So well done. Yeah, very good. And so do you have employees in your organization? Do you have people working for you?
Yeah.
Yep. How many do you have?
I think we have 28, 29, I think.
Yeah, very cool. And what's it like to lead them? In other words, did you get into leadership yourself? What's it like to lead these people?
Oh, it's phenomenal. I just love working with a great set of people. It's very challenging. We were up to 52 about 6 months ago, and we had to scale back down. The economy has changed. And it's just phenomenal working with just great people, smart people, not so smart people, right? I'll tell you what, many people always say it's great working with smart people. And sometimes, not everybody is going to be that smart. That's the reality, right? And which is okay, right? Everyone brings value in different ways. And it's just phenomenal because we're creating change and we're creating brand new companies that the world has never seen before. And it's all being done by you and I, people like you and I. And it's just phenomenal working with great people.
Excellent. So I think that's a great, just the listeners' sake, I think that's a great point that you made. We talk about getting the right people around you is one thing. So that's one topic. People talk about getting smart people around you. Yep, that's another topic. But I think what Nelson's saying here is the fact that, smart people, the people who may not be smart, but they are the right people to have around you. That's a different thing. And I think having the right people around you to help you in your organization going forward is smart, right? That's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I'll tell you what, right? Different eyes see different things, right? Mm-hmm. So a few minutes ago, I said, not everybody is always going to be the smartest. And that's totally fine because different eyes see different things. And everyone brings value. We just, as leaders, our challenge is to help, that person bring out that value.
Yeah. Yeah. Too right. You're right. That's spot on in the sense that, we need to understand and look for that value that they have and help them bring it out is really good. And that's leadership, isn't it? That's really what leadership's about.
Yeah, that is leadership. It's taking someone who doesn't, many people don't believe in themselves. Many people don't believe they bring value, but I'm always saying different eyes see different things.
Yeah, cool.
And building a team is people are always bringing value. We just have to figure out how to bring that out of them and how to learn from them.
Whereabouts in the world are you today?
I'm in a beautiful neck of the woods called Whangamata in the base of the Coromandel Peninsula on the east coast of New Zealand here. Yeah, pretty fortunate place to live, I'd have to say.
Yeah, very good. And so for people around the world who are listening to whereabouts you are, Whangamata, based in New Zealand, but is it an area whereby it's very much a beach type of resort area, a coastal area, surfing, things like that?
Yeah, look, picture this. We've got a 4-kilometre stretch of beautiful white sand beach, some of the world's best surf breaks, beautiful blue water of the Pacific Ocean. We've got some of the most beautiful native bush with mountain bike parks and tramping and bushwalks, and a small, very tight-knit community of about 4,000 or 5,000 people. So, yeah, that's a sensational place to live, work and play, and also a fantastic place to raise a young family.
Yeah, and now that's in the Coromandel. Is that opposite Hahei?
Yeah, we're just about 30 minutes drive south of Hahei, for those that know the iconic hot water beach area of New Zealand, one of the most visited parts of the country, just about half an hour south of there.
And can you catch a boat across?
No, I don't have a boat. I don't have a boat.
But is there a ferry that goes across?
Yes, yep. You can get a ferry from Whitianga
Yep.
up the Coromandel over to Ferry Landing and then head out to Hahei, Hotwater Beach, and check it all out.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. Around that time, New Year's Eve, we went to a new world. I'm not sure which whereabouts it was, but the queues were right from the checkout right through to the end of the shop on every aisle of people waiting. We couldn't even get a trolley. It was crazy. It's an awesome place to be.
Dead right. That's the other side of things is it is a pretty cool place. And so when Christmas, summer holidays roll around, and obviously in the Southern Hemisphere, that means it's summertime, everyone having their time out with their family, and they all love coming to Whangamata here. I think the flex in the town's population is about 4,500, 5,000 all year round. And then through summer, it bumps up to about 45,000, 50,000 people. So pretty hectic. And hence you pick your time when you go to the supermarket and things like that.
Yeah, true. It's true. Hey, Nathan, you're the co-founder and managing director of Save 365. What I'd like you to do is tell us a little bit more about Save 365, what the organization is, but also more about your background, because I know that you're a company director, you're a certified professional risk manager, you're a sports scientist. Tell us more about you.
Yeah. So Save 365 is a business that my business partner, Mark Kidd, and I started in 2016. And we did it to fundamentally help organizations move from being reactive to much more proactive in the way they think about risk and the way they particularly look after people in the modern era that we're in. And there's a huge cost of harm globally, talking sort of 3.7 million people don't go home from work from a fatality perspective every year around the world. And 380 odd million people have an accident where they have up to 4 days off work, which is a massive cost, about $4 trillion US per year. Major issue out there, and that never sat well with me with my background, which I'll talk a little bit about, because fundamentally I knew that a lot of that is preventable. And not only is it preventable on a social level, but there's a huge amount of business value tied into looking after people. If your workers are engaged, happy, healthy, safe, they're productive, they're loyal, and they're going to deliver a great outcome for you in your business from a business performance perspective. Always had that philosophy. So our mission with Save 365 is, can we get 100 million people into proactively safe work environments on a global level? And if we think we can do that, then we think that's pretty special in terms of what that would mean in terms of harm reduction, insurance performance for those businesses and those individuals, and actually the business productivity gains as a result of that. So that's what we're doing. We're 7 or 8 years into that. Where that sort of came from, just a little bit more about me personally. I started thinking about public safety as a volunteer surf lifeguard here in Whangamata as a 14-year-old, where it's a magnificent volunteer movement, surf lifesaving. They save, in the New Zealand context, 1,600 people a year get rescued that are recreating around the coast, and that's down to, by and large, our volunteer surf lifesavers. And they've been doing that for over 100 years. And when you think about how surf lifeguards perform their role, they put out those iconic red and yellow flags. And they show people the safest place to swim on a beach, on a patrolled beach. But what they do throughout that day is they're constantly thinking about risk. They're thinking about who are the sorts of people that are on the beach today? What are their backgrounds? Do they look competent and comfortable around water? What are they wearing? Are they wearing the right sort of things to recreate safely? What are the conditions doing? How is the swell or the wave type changing as the tide changes with sandbars and the wind and things like that? And all of those attributes contribute to risk on a beach. And what surf lifeguards do magnificently is they recognize that risk in real time, and they take action proactively to stop things turning into an incident or someone getting harmed. And it's a really quite an amazing global movement that's been doing that effectively for over 100 years. And so I got involved with that as a 14-year-old, and on about the 5th or 6th day on the job as a volunteer, a chap had a major cardiac arrest, an elderly chap. It was the 4th or 5th of January here in Whangamata. There's about 10,000 people on the beach, middle of summer, 25, 30 degree day, and all hell broke loose when that happened, as you could probably imagine. And I was a junior lifeguard on about day 5 or 6, and so I was part of a bigger team doing that response, but the team put 5 shocks through that gentleman's heart on the beach and saved his life. A helicopter had to come in, medevac him out, and he walked back into the surf club some weeks later to thank us, which was a pretty special moment for someone at 14. You think, go back to what you were doing at 14, the stories that you'd be telling to your mates at school and things like that. Or what did you do in your summer break? I had a pretty different type of story to share, which was really inspiring to me. So I got really caught up in surf lifesaving, hook, line, and sinker. There's nothing I wouldn't say yes to. Opportunities for learning and development, new courses, learn new skills. And then it was about 15 months after that, when I was 15, perhaps the flip side of that coin, where a lot of the seniors had left some of us juniors in charge. And about 2 or 3 kilometres down the beach, just out of sight of the main beach, a lady went into the water, had a heart attack, and we had to pull her out. I was actually the person running the scene as a 15-year-old that day, and we did CPR on that lady for 90 minutes before I was telling the husband and 2 daughters that unfortunately they'd lost their mother and wife that day, which was pretty tough for someone at 15 to actually manage. And so that the agony and ecstasy, if you like, in terms of the impact you can make as a surf lifeguard. But what it did do in me is it really lit a fuse at that time around wanting to really help people and look after people out there, particularly for things that are just entirely preventable. And so I went about learning about how to do that. And actually I found it in surf lifesaving. How the heck could someone my age have to experience those sorts of activities? And so I was almost a bit angry about that. And so I started to naturally want to drive some change in that organization so that we weren't exposing 14 and 15-year-olds to that type of traumatic incident, because it's not a good thing at that age. And so I went on this journey for the 20 years or 25 years since of making those changes within my club, within my local region, within the national body, within the international body, and went on to participate in developing global drowning prevention strategies and all sorts of really cool things that have made a really big impact over a long period of time. I would say that from a personal perspective, I've always been a pretty reluctant leader. I grew up in a semi-rural Waikato, typical New Zealand kind of home. Mum and Dad were salary and wage earners. They worked really hard for everything we ever got. I was fortunate to get a pretty good education, but have had to work really hard. And so I think surf lifesaving for me was a real turning point in my life that gave me a real sense of purpose. And that sense of purpose I think has really unlocked a lot of the things I've been able to contribute out there over the years ever since. So it's got going, and along the way I did some studies, as you pointed out, with sports science, and I studied risk management, enterprise risk management up in Singapore. I've studied governance and done company directors training and things like that as I've grown a little bit older and looked at things differently and appreciated the value of good governance. And then obviously when my professional career in surf lifesaving started to wrap up, having been the GM of Surf Lifesaving New Zealand and then Surf Lifesaving Australia, was looking at what I wanted to do next. And that's when sort of Mark and I were having a talk about it. Hey, I think there's this opportunity. Business owners that were in our network were really struggling with how they could effectively look after people. And I thought, what a great opportunity, because one, technology is a great way to democratize access to wisdom and direction and understanding. But also, it shouldn't be that hard. It shouldn't be that hard for someone who owns a business who's not a risk professional or a health and safety professional. It shouldn't be that hard for them to understand what good looks like in terms of looking after their people. And I think, in all honesty, probably amplified by a New Zealand attitude, a wee bit of that sort of she'll be right mentality. We've got a beautifully innovative economy and we come up with some magnificent innovation here in New Zealand, but it does come at a bit of a cost, in that we also love taking shortcuts. And in this context, those shortcuts often are work health and safety, and it means we often see quite preventable harm occurring in workplaces around the country. And so I think working really hard to try and overcome that in a New Zealand context has really helped with what we're now doing around the world, in the UK and the Middle East and in Australia and so forth. So that's how it's panned out thus far.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.